that would rate the applicants through the superintendent and would take that and recommend to the board. In other words,
provide an ordered list to the board.
That he would not be involved in screening, scrutinizing, throwing in the you-know-what can if he doesn't like somebody, the recommendation, which would avoid this embarrassing situation to the district where they got a committee member who's shown up and spent 2 hours tonight, and take the recommendations of an independent committee and not sanitize it before it goes to the Board of Supervisors or reject it, which is exactly what happened here. And I mean, let me rephrase it. Direct.
You're losing your motion.
Yeah. I would direct. I'm not good at this. I would. The motion is yes.
I would suggest that we wordsmith a proper directive to the superintendent to the board and copy the superintendent about the process and how it probably should work, and rather than just try to make this up when it's really committee work.
Don't do it on the fly. I mean,
right.
I'll be happy to sit on that committee.
Okay.
But I think that's what we should do.
And I think all you can do for discussion purposes is you're not going to advise the board, and you're not necessarily going to request, but you may point out that there were irregularities involved here. And quite frankly, I think because our medium is the media, that we address it to the media. And once again, it's more grist for the Sweetwater bill, but I'm bloody well tired of this. And I've tried enough, we've tried enough shots across the bow. I mean, we're constantly getting pushback on this, but if give him an opportunity to answer the question or to get the question answered. Did he insert himself in the process contrary to what he said he was going to do? And if that's the case, then we take that out to the media. I mean, that's what you have to do, because you're going to teach this dog not to suck eggs.
Through the chair, Mr.
Yes, go ahead.
I would love to see, or I would suggest that you appoint a committee to craft this document, because I think that we are at a crossroads in the whole process of organizational aegis in this community. And I would say this is one of the more important documents that you craft that has supporting documents to go along with it.
Exactly so.
And copy, and have it directed to the authority, not to the superintendent. The copy to the superintendent and the copy to the press.
Yeah. Yeah. It's unfortunate, but I think it is the only remedy that is available to us.
So can you make the motion so you do?
I just
well,
did. I just did.
I'll second it.
Okay. Okay.
So again, the motion is
that
just the committee writes the letter.
That's right.
I think we all want to see the letter.
Oh, absolutely. No, absolutely. Well, I would say that the committee drafts a letter of recommendation for the selection process of a member of the board, the Oversight Board Committee, and that we, and in this recommendation, we bring out irregularities, have supporting documents to that effect, and that it's not sent to the superintendent, but rather to the board, because in reading the documents that have been brought forward, it seems that the door, I'm being parenthetical here now, but then copy the superintendent and send a copy to the press. And I think that you can just point those people you want on that committee, and that should be crafted and then brought back to the committee. Everybody should see it, sign off on it, and then send it on its way.
I think you already have a second on that, but I would say that this is time sensitive.
Yep.
And that the final committee approval, I would like to see be able to be done by email. Not crafting it, but simply to approve what we've actually come up with, so that we can get it out more sooner rather than later.
Agreed.
Three people.
Three people.
That's right. Yeah, and I mean, I'll sit on that. I'm used to writing letters to the district.
Really?
Yeah.
Who else? Army volunteers?
Dr. Grubb?
I'd be happy to sit on it if you want.
Okay, we have Ms. Lopez can give us the transcript that she read from us.
Oh, it's on the board docs.
Oh,
On
it is?
April, yeah, you can hear it, April 16, 2013. I just wanted to caution you, and because I do have to leave, I have to go to another meeting. But I just wanted to say something very important. You know, like Tom said, there was a process. The process did work, I want you guys to know. The process did not work for the assistants because there was interference from the superintendent.
Yes.
Now, I do want to caution you of something, that it should be entirely, the decision should be entirely be up to the committee who interviews those people. And let me tell you why. This is very important that you listen to this. Because, you know, I know that Mr. McCann said that this should be done publicly, and where the board members hear these people publicly, and that they get to choose the person. But my fear is, remember, the board will get to know who these individuals are that are applying. By this time, Dr. Rand will also know who these individuals that are applying. And if he wants that one person to be selected, you need to count to 3, guys. And he's got the power of 3. So who is that person that's going to be selected? It's who Dr. Rand wants.
Yeah, I mean,
Just want to caution you.
we have to learn some of the lessons of the past, and we're talking about either us getting directly involved in it, or
So the
Yes,
process,
we need
the
to make
process
sure that's
worked
gonna
up to the point where the committee themselves selected the people, and those 2 individuals that the committee selected should have gone directly to the board to be appointed. And that was it. But it didn't go that way. It went, they treated as a human resources, as an employee. I can tell you, when Dr. Alt applied, this is not confidential, they went ahead, he got interviewed, they went ahead and they forward individuals to Dr. Brandt. Dr. Brandt is his boss, okay? He gets to choose his people that he's gonna work with. But this is not an employee position. This was a volunteer. So whoever the committee chose should have gone directly to the board for appointment. No questions asked. See? So if you leave it up to the board to have all these interviews, again, the process is gonna be manipulated.
It can be.
Yeah.
Well,
And I know that's on tape, and I
No,
don't
no,
care
I think,
about if
I think
say
you're
it.
I think you're absolutely right. I think that
Right.
what we're trying to do is have something that is confidential as far as the interview and the selection process, and then let it follow through according to what you've just said. Let the committee's recommend. In other words, there should be committee work. That's the problem on the board. There isn't enough committee work. You guys are trying to do work there, and you're getting so much impact at night from all these people floating out.
It's the control issue, Dr. Grubb. It's control issue.
Yeah, it's arrogant, it's true.
Control.
Yeah,
So, that's it.
Okay,
thank you.
call for the vote. Kevin?
Aye.
Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Ay, ay, ay. Good. It had to be done because it had to be done. The next item, the time certain, this is government time certain, it's 8 o'clock with 7 o'clock time certain. I put together a chair report to go, I went through, and I don't want to make this a monologue, but just, I went through the performance audit in detail. And let me just say that it's really up to the committee what you want to do. I know it's a late hour, but I went through the performance audit, raised a number of issues, and the direction could be that the report could go back to the audit subcommittee for further review and heard at our next CBOC meeting in April. May, or we could forward the report as written, or we could just table it for now and do nothing. And I don't know if it's given the hour, if we want to go through it. But the audit, you know, I'll just give you my observations of it, and just personal observations. It was better than I expected, given the cost of the audit was under $20,000. It raised a lot of significant issues. One of them was the amount of the payments, the number of payments that when they compared all the sign-offs on expenditures. There was a lot of payments of consultants and contractors that didn't have all the sign-offs. I thought that was pretty significant. There was issues about they supposed to look at 3 projects. They failed to look at the iPads, even though that was a major issue. That was kind of, I felt, a deficiency. There was also an issue regarding change orders in excess of 10% that were pursuant to the public contract code that didn't get board approval. They just went ahead and after the fact, they exceeded the 10% threshold limit. And there needs to be greater scrutiny in how reimbursable expenses are approved with consultants. That in a nutshell, I guess of all the ones that, just reading the audit in detail, that just concerned me the most, and it was a concern that I had from my very start of this committee, is that the lack of internal control over decisions as it relates to the expenditure of funds, in terms of all the sign-offs and the checks and balances of who signs what and who approves what. It appears, given that the percentage of those invoices that didn't have all the sign-offs is indicating there's still a lot of room for improvement in the internal control system within the district. So that would be my main observation. So with that, I mean, that was kind of a little bit of a rambling, but I guess I'm wondering what you want to do. It is a late hour,
So,
but yes.
so point of order, what we need to decide, we've reviewed the audit and we had discussion before. I don't think it has to go through us. It just goes with our comments. Right? It's submitted to the district with our comments.
Mr. Chair, certainly we can just receive your comments. One of the items I would suggest for your joint meeting with the board in May would be a discussion of both the audits, both the financial and the performance audit with the board. And your concerns, by that time you'll have had district staff response to the audit and our recommendations moving forward as well. We're finalizing those right now.
Mr. Chair, is there any advantage to taking it back to the subcommittee, or why not publish it now? Are you comfortable in the language and in the facts?
I'm personally comfortable, but I'm also really sensitive to the fact that we do have an audit subcommittee that may want to add their own individual perspective above and beyond just the chair writing the report. And I want to be very sensitive to that. I feel comfortable with what I've written is the best of my ability as an individual to go through this audit and live and breathe this. This has been a really, really important personal issue with me. And I do understand that so to answer your question, I would send it as is.
Well, why don't you poll the subcommittee and see what
I'm fine with sending it as is. I read it thoroughly and I'm fine with it as is.
I mean, one, we talked about this for 2 meetings, and I think you've summarized it well, so I say let it go.
Okay. Mr. Alt, and then I'll make a motion that we'll forward it.
One of the things that is important in my role, and I oversee the internal auditor and the external contract audits, and one of the things in my observation is that we need to have functional, and I put forward as a goal and objective, and it's been authorized by the superintendent, and I've worked with the president of the Board of Education on already, is getting a functional audit committee. And so what you would get through the discussion you just had, that your response would go to the audit committee, and then it'd be my role to shepherd through that audit committee, which would be an open public meeting and you could engage in, is that we have a response to all of the findings. So it's not simply, we have an audit, we have findings, you express concerns relative to the findings, and then we wait and see what happens next year, but that you would get a plan from our teams as to what our response is to the audit finding, how we're going to make root cause solutions to ensure that it's not going to happen again, so we don't have repeatable findings. So hopefully that will help clarify with this. My own personal view is there's not a lot we can do now with the audit that you have forward, if you have come forward. You know what the issues are, but if you know that I'm aware of what we need to do to get the Board of Education in the loop on these issues more and create more of a forum for you to have dialogue about your concerns with the Board of Education, that's forthcoming. And those will start June. We're going to have a meeting. We haven't set a date yet, but we'll have one in June, and I'll do a training for the board about what their role is as an audit committee, what the internal auditor's role is, what the external contract auditor's role is, and then we'll start down the path of quarterly meetings where they'll review information and data like a response plan to our audit. And hopefully that will help with any concerns you might have tonight about moving this forward.
Great. I'll make a motion that we, I guess, make a motion that we submit the chair report as presented to the committee tonight to the district for their consideration in response to the annual performance audit. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
May I make a comment before we get to the next agenda item? I sat here with Diane Russo in meetings, and I've listened to Mr. Ault, and it's like night and day. Dr. Ault, it's like night and day in terms of cooperation. Thank you. Big time. Moving on.
Mr. Chair, did you want to go back to the
Oh, I'm sorry.
reason why we're here?
All right.
Wait, this isn't a 12-step?
We're powerless over bond oversight. Our life has become unmanageable. Okay.
Unfortunately, Mr. Woods couldn't be with us tonight, so
How is he doing?
he appreciated your comments at the board and appreciated the letter. And he said you do too much.
How's he doing?
He's doing fine. He's waiting patiently. Proposition 0 project highlights, Bonita Vista HVAC, we're going to try to knock out this summer. We're going to do some GFE ahead of time so that once we just got keeps the designer moving forward on that, so we're going to do that. Once he does the items, we'll be able to order the equipment and then hopefully get it done. Track and field design was awarded to the architect last night at the board meeting. Castle Park High, Title IX improvements are going very well. He was there, reviewed it with the principal, went over it, and Jim's done a great job. They're about 95% complete, so it's just in the punch-out phase. Chula Vista High, portal removal demo is going to be during summer break. There was some issues with the 10-day notice and the contractor failing to do that. So it doesn't really hurt our plans because nothing's going to go in that way. He's holding his price as he should. Granger Junior High, the health clinic upgrades, this is a 50-50 split with Madeline. The design is now complete. It's out of DSA. Just came out today. So we're moving forward with procurement on that. Hilltop High, again, design was awarded last night at the board. Montgomery High School, Ms. Cheer's on that committee. Project 2 is moving along. They're going to be starting on the parking lot and doing the demo on the buildings, moving the security residence. All that's done before graduation. That's the key. And then the buildings will start shortly thereafter in the summer. Montgomery Middle School Project 1 is about 3/4 done at this point. It'll be done in August this coming year. And no issues, no problems. And I don't know if all you know, the lawsuit's been dismissed.
What was the lawsuit about?
There was a leaseback validation. The district enters into a validation action, and it was enjoined by Mr. Carlin and others, and it was dropped after a SLAP hearing. It's moving on. So the project is continuing. Mar Vista High School was dedicated. Mr. McCann was out there to throw out the first pitch of the game.
Of course he was.
And Mar Vista won, handily. National City Project 2, that project award to pre-construction of McCarthy last night at the board meeting. There'll be new plan specs, constructability reviews, and then we'll bring back the GMP, the guaranteed maximum price, to the board coming up in May. And then they'll be doing demo. We reviewed this, Mr. Marovich reviewed Mr. O'Neill on our field trip. Who else was there?
Dr. Alt, what is it?
Dr. Alt was.
I think it was the four of us, pretty much.
And so that'll be starting this summer. Southwest Middle, increment 1, work on the west side is started, and that'll be completed in July. And that's where the Stephen Hawking Charter 2 will be going in those portables. Increment 2 is working on the science labs, and that'll also be going in late 2015.
Where do you say the charter is going in?
They're going in the portables north of the cafeteria, the old shop building over there, along the west side of 27th. Sweetwater High Welding Building 2, it's still in back check, hopefully completing that. And again, the welding classes will continue. It's the ROP offices that are closing. The classes at the schools are going to continue, so when people say ROP is going away, not all the CTE and ROP classes are going away. The classes will still be at the schools.
The ROP welding program's going to still be there?
Yeah.
And then the adult school still have it 2 nights a week?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to still go on. The ROP center is closing down.
Yes,
But
the welding, the CTE classes.
But the classes that occur at all the schools are going to continue. That's my understanding of the CTE program is going to continue on.
Well, they told us just the opposite, so.
We're going to build that. Site restoration parking lot is going to wait for our solar to go in before we finish that. Track and field's out to bid. Should be bid any day now, and award made in May. Should be open for homecoming in September. Projects at multiple sites. The solar, we've got actually going to have 17 sites going. We did actually 6 the first time, 17 the second, which will include the middle schools this time, and we put out about 6.8 megs power. The financials, M1 went to the board yesterday. You may have seen it. This is the project list and all the contingency. Contingency is a bit low, and I'm going to be working with Dr. Alt because I believe there's potentially some Tropo money that was set aside for iPads that may be freed up now. So we'll work on that to put that back in the contingency category where I need it. Chula Vista High School, these are just individual project records. If you've got any questions, please stop me. Hilltop High, Montgomery High, the first phase, middle school, Mar Vista, National City Middle, Project 1, Project 2, Southwest High, 1A, Southwest Middle School, 1A, and then the west side. Sweetwater High, track and field, and the financials on small projects. And we still haven't moved back the MAC money, or we did move back the MAC money.
On Southwest Middle, construction contract summary, these are all stipulated sum contracts,
Yes.
except,
We
well,
did.
we have the HAR, but
Yeah, Har was actually through, taking a bonding company, surety stepped in, and we had that finished by a number of companies.
How did 3D Enterprises do?
They did okay. We did a change order. They had a $297,000 contract, that site work one, and we had a change order that we had to do for $47,000 last night before. That one busted 10%. And that was a finding of no significant competitive advantage. Because they were on site, we had to get the thing done, and they were already mobilized.
Well, you had them as field renovation and site work.
And they were already mobilized.
Yeah.
Anything else? That's the M1.
So you mentioned the terrible word iPads. And
Okay.
we haven't had enough.
Please, Terry.
So in the plan, because this lags, right? Because we had 1.8 million expended in Prop O, we had 5.4 total, we had 3.6 left as a commitment. Mr. All has a new financial plan on how to deal with the iPads, so my hope is that a lot of that Prop O, some of it will be used for infrastructure, and that's appropriate. But the money that was going to be going towards the devices would be freed up and would be paid for by other sources, as you heard at the board meeting last night. And then we would return that money back to the contingency.
Actually, I wasn't at the board meeting last night, so is the bottom line that we're gonna get Prop O money out of the iPad business, or?
iPads out of the Prop O business, and you get Kevin out of your hair.
Well, you know, I was about to suggest, and somebody ought to do this anyway. I was gonna recommend that one of our site visits be to an iPad classroom, and really talk to the kids and the teacher and see what they're doing. Because frankly, you know, parents and a lot of kids are happy using iPads.
We can arrange that if you'd like.
And there's actually.
If we're gonna be out of that business and it's not a Prop O issue, then, you know.
But
then-
the
Well, except
infrastructure
we still have to come out whether we think that the previously spent money was handled well or not.
Well, that's true.
Because, I mean, we had two. We were either looking forward to your continued spending, which is where I was going, and we still have to look back at what you have spent. And, you know, I think we can kind of agree that was the poster child of how to not to get into that pool. I mean, we jumped in without knowing the depth or even the temperature of that water.
There's two reasons I say I'm sorry to finish, John. But, you know, one is, you know, again, there is the oversight issue, and the other is, just from our perspective as people engaged in this, is from an issue perspective, it's going to come up again. When I was in a meeting last night, when I heard the CTO essentially of a neighboring school district, who will go unnamed, said, oh no, we need to, you know, so it's out there. I think we as informed citizens you know, should have an opinion. We won't get one unless we go see how it's being done. So I propose a site visit, not to a sticks and bricks kind of thing, but to a classroom or a program that's using these things.
Maybe we should just have iPads issued to us.
I'd like to do that. Through the chair.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Terry.
You know, what was troubling to me about last night's report about the iPads that was given by staff, I found it really quite amazing that out of 6,000 iPads that were distributed, 0.88% of them were lost or stolen. That boils down to about 48 to 56 iPads out of 6,000. For 7th, 8th, and 9th graders, that dog don't hunt.
Ring true.
That dog don't hunt. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, I can't trust grandkids. I can't trust my 7th, 8th grade grandkids to watch for an iPad for more than a day. Where'd it go, Grandpa? You know, so I mean, I just find the statistics rather revealing. So I don't know how to approach that from a auditing point of view. It's not maybe.
Glasses, I lose my glasses.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe it's not in our purview.
Well, I don't know, it is. I mean, I think.
If they
at
pay
this
for it,
point,
it is.
I think it's a tar baby that we've touched, but we're not gonna get anywhere again. And I mean, all you hear about iPads is grousing and commentary one way or the other. The only way we're going to understand it is to go watch it, I think, and then we can get some of these questions that we haven't answered.
But it still doesn't answer the question, is it appropriate use
Well,
of bond money? And if we start spending bond
Actually,
money again,
I understand.
I'm gonna take it and we'll adjudicate it.
The only
Yes.
comment I made is that this committee already made that decision before many of us were on the committee. Go back and read the minutes and the notes.
Yes.
Already did, so that, that horse has left the barn, and we're in the oversight mode now, not the
Well,
debate mode.
just to clarify though, Terry, we didn't make a decision, we gave a recommendation. The committee didn't authorize or decide the district to use bond money for the purchase of iPads.
Well, I don't know, what I saw in the notes, what I read was.
Keep in mind that we've always been an oversight committee, we've never been the committee that makes a decision or tells the district what they can and can't do with their money, so.
I understand what kind of.
Okay.
We have members of the public that want to
Let
comment?
them hear,
Oh.
let them hear Tom first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I do want to say, Mr. Remich, that there is a survey instrument that's going out to all the 7th graders and their parents to be able to respond about the iPads, so we can get feedback from them. We'll share, when we get that, we'll share that with you. And then we certainly can arrange a trip for, we can do an announced trip and have more, forum with us if we want to do it that way, or we can do a committee of 3 or less to go look at the iPads thing, and it's whatever your pleasure is.
That,
I don't know.
And then Dr. Alt, you want to?
no, go ahead, sir.
So I'm going to take an opportunity, since you invited me to talk about personal philosophy in your earlier questions. My own personal philosophy, after having been oversight of a construction program that was bond funded, is that we don't buy things that are short-term with long-term bond money. So the article that Nick sent out said if we do that, then we're going to pay 3 or 4 times the value of the iPad. And so I don't believe in doing that from a financial model. And this is my own opinion right now, but I'm expressing it and have expressed it last night through the recommendation that the iPads are not funded through PROPO or CFD money. So that I suspect that my personal philosophy is going to continue to carry weight in that. So I don't anticipate we're going to have them funded other than through the other sources that we have seen. I do believe, and I think Tom mentioned this, and I don't think there's argument here, that infrastructure and getting a pipeline out there and opening up the ability for our schools to be wireless, regardless of the device, bring your own, whatever, is infrastructure, and that's an intent of PROPO money and CFD money. So that's what we focused it on. But the larger issue for me, and what was important about last night's agenda item that was approved, is that the board adopted in a very overt way the philosophy of the one-to-one device, one student, one device provided by the district. And so now that it's an educational philosophy, it needs to be funded through a sustainable model like any other educational program. And so that last night to me was an important issue, but hopefully we'll take it out of you guys having to worry about it, because now we're talking about it like an ed program, because it's a philosophy, it's an educational philosophy.
I wonder if they understand the implications of that vote, though.
I hope so, because we had talk from me, Maria, David D'Amico, and other staff that it was an important philosophy. So one of the things, I can't remember if it was Bertha or Pearl that said to the ROP students, you are our priority. And I appreciate that she said that, but as a new person, it dawned on me, I don't really know what the priorities are. We don't list them right now. We haven't had this discussion. And so now the board has said through the action that they took that this one-to-one philosophy is an educational philosophy of the district, which I happen to agree with, by the way, but it's inconsequential whether I do or I don't. The board is the policy-making body. They made this decision. Now it's my role as the CFO to find a sustainable way to finance how many other units we're going to have. And I don't care if they're iPads or Android or whatever, but I need to put a model together. And because we hadn't had that philosophical decision until last night, that's why I put a recommendation forward to lease them. But now that we know that it's an educational philosophy, I'll put a financing plan together, and it'll be hopefully sustainable, and we'll have to make tough decisions on what other things don't get funded to support this philosophy. And then we'll stick to infrastructure and providing the access and those kinds of things like I think you guys agree is the intent of the CFD money in the Prop.
And my hope is that ultimately the legislature will come up with a technology bond where you're gonna be able to actually take that money for technology, whatever that may be, whether it's a take-home device or whether it's whatever is coming up that's going to aid the classroom experience. Yeah. Then we may have overview of that as well as part of it.
Well,
But the money is designated for that. It just doesn't say technology is okay, like the legal opinion that this district was leaning on for the first use.
Can I say, as chair, I've been on this committee for a year, and I know Dr. Grubb has to leave a little, because he's going to be a better person after tomorrow.
I hope so.
You know, I'm hearing you talk, and I gotta tell you, I've been on this committee, and you're the most open staff with what you're saying, and have I'm sensing a degree of you're sort of independently telling us what you're thinking without sanitizing what you're thinking. And I think it's a good thing. I mean, this is a candor, and like you're telling us what you think as a professional is the right thing to do without trying to put a spin on what you think somebody else might think you're supposed to say. I mean, it's really refreshing. I'm giving you a compliment. I mean, I just like, you're telling us for the first time I've heard from anybody that you didn't think using long-term money to buy a short-term asset is a good thing. Even though that's in fact what the board did when they purchased the iPad. But you've given your professional opinion. I just wanted to encourage you, if you're allowed to encourage us, to be candid with us about what you think is the right professional thing to do. And I'm really very pleased. So,
Mr. Chair, I'm very apologetic I have to leave. I too want to say the same thing. I appreciate the professionalism with both Mr. Calhoun and Dr. Hall. It's refreshing to see that. Again, CC, thanks for being here. You're always sending me stuff in windmail and never works for me, but that's okay. I'm an old.
let us know how you're doing.
I'll send you an email. Gentlemen, thanks. I always enjoy
Right,
working
good luck.
with you all.
All right.
Good luck, Dr. Brown. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have another agenda item? Or
See what-
We do.
Good luck.
Thank you, thank you.
Board item.
So-
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, I wanted to mention that Mrs. Lopez was the one who had stated that she felt the need for a student questionnaire, which I thought was an excellent recommendation. But I did have a question, sir, and that is last night there was a member of the public named Mr. Payne who stated that Ms. Castaneda said, I think she said there were between 50 or 60 of the iPads
50.
were lost.
50.
Lost or stolen.
50.
And then Mr. Payne said, or pointed out, that I think $400,000 is being paid to a contractor to find iPads once they're gone. So how does that equate?
Well, my understanding, and let me provide
Oh,
a
but let me,
caveat.
one last comment, sir. And additionally, as you know, I am a very opinionated person. And
Really?
I just wanted to,
Definitely iPads had to be read.
and I just want to state, I've been very impressed and it's hard to impress me. So thank you, sir. And you can go talk to them.
Okay, so I don't know a lot about the educational side about the decision that went into iPads. And so I want to make caveat that I'll investigate further and I'll let you know if I say anything that's in error. However, after that came up yesterday, I did talk to Maria about it. And the way I understand it is that it's not just for theft. And it doesn't just cover theft, but it covers damage. It covers inoperability of the unit, even if the student didn't do anything with it. Warranty covers that as well. But that, from what I understand, is a broader-based plan, so it's not just intended to address that 1% or 2% that might get lost or stolen, but it's essentially our auto insurance plan on every unit. So it doesn't just cover the couple that are missing or lost. It covers every unit for virtually almost anything that could happen to the unit. So that's the way I understood it after I talked to her about it. If I'm in error, I'll come back and correct that. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but that's the way I understand it as of today.
Because when we did do the research, it does look like that's what they do, is they find them. they find iPads. So if you could, I'd appreciate that.
And
Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Chair, I may be able to comment on that. There is a GPS tracker finder embedded in there, and you can find your, here's your iPad.
I lost it once.
Is that mine?
And I found
You
it in my
found mine?
trash can, believe it or not, with this tool.
And the tool is accessible through the IT department that Dr. All has that can track them down, man. They can track one down in Mexico.
Yeah, basically it's a LoJack device, but I think the first batch we bought a la carte, and we had to add all of that stuff, and the 400,000 I think is on the next batch that
That's
we're gonna
correct.
spend.
That's
And
correct.
we got smart in how we procured those. So-
It's the real issue. The smart way to buy these things is not to buy iPads, but to buy a service that provides a personal device for each student that is linked to his or her curriculum, and, you know, you maintain it in that, and whether it's an iPad, whether next year it's another type of device.
Yeah, I don't know that it makes sense to own this stuff, because
Yeah, it does not.
the technology changes so quickly
Does not
that
make sense.
you may just be better off with a lease that you can hand them back and say, this is reel to reel or cassette tape. Now, let's go to something else.
That's
And there
the
are
way the
issues
lease is
with the
structured.
charge- There are issues with charging, because my granddaughter has one. I don't know if you can speak, oh, you don't have one, 7-seater. But, you know, they use them all day at school, and then they're supposed to come home and do homework. She's ADD, so it takes her a very long time, and sometimes the iPad is dead before she's able to finish her homework because of the charging. So I just wanted to bring that up. Not that that's your fault or anything, but just want to bring that up.
It's Dr. Bransfield.
So, Mr. Chair, this is the new, this is a board item report, but as you noticed yesterday, we have a new M2 report, which is all the consultants. We broke the consultants out of the K1 section, so we have all the capital stuff together. M1 is the capital plan, M2 are the consultants to support the capital plan, in other words, how we execute. And so there's a lot of items there that are M2. And then we have the items down the list, going down to the resolutions, which took care of your bylaws and also took care of that change order I talked about.
Yeah.
And then program management update, we did have the board approve the contract manager position, so we don't have to advertise it as subject to board approval anymore. It's an approved position, so we're hoping we get a good quality people. If you know anybody with public contract code experience that knows how to procure professional as well as construction services, please ask them to apply.
With the caveat that the position reports to me, that may hurt the pool.
Well, I've got to have a firewall here because
Yeah.
it's
Oh, yeah,
conflict. Performance audit we did, anything?
No, just, I think we're okay with it. I don't think we want to respond. Report from the chair. Last night there was an item on the agenda, it's $500 some. I'm going up to the California League of Bond Oversight Committees meeting on May 9th, annual meeting, and then 10th we have a conference. Trustee McCann pulled that item for discussion, but we never got to it. But so, as I understand it, never was actually approved.
No, it wasn't, so it's rolled over to the next meeting,
So
so it'll be on the next agenda.
I'm sure he'll tell me why he pulled it, or he won't be there, he'll be in Korea.
Yeah, he's heading to Korea tomorrow.
Two things, again, the California League of Bond Oversight Committees has a big hoop-de-doo conference May 10th, Sacramento. Treasurer Lockyer will be speaking, Assemblymember Joan Buchanan, who's, I believe she's chair of one of the Education Committee, so she's up the food chain. Kevin Carlin will be speaking, and Joel Thurtell, who's the blogger who gave the information to Will Carlos, who gave them the capital.
The Poway Caps.
Poway Caps will be there.
Yeah.
From Michigan, yeah.
Yeah, he broke it from Detroit.
Spoke with
From,
him last year.
interesting bio. Also, I got a call today, and Bernardo did as well, from Senator Wyland's office regarding a bill that they're considering language and possible, I guess, testimony next week regarding forcing districts to actually have to pay attention and deal with performance audits. Because there's vast inconsistency around the state of how they deal with performance audit. What we're doing here is sort of like how it should be done. And then finally, on April 25th, at 7:30 a.m. at the Wyndham, which used to be the Holiday Inn along the Embarcadero, there's going to be what's called a breakfast dialogue as part of the organization that I'm involved with, Citizens Coordinate for Century 3. And we're going to have a panel discussion. I'm going to be the moderator, and there's going to be Kevin Carlin, Wendy Fry, Tom Calhoun, and Chris Kate as the panel members to talk about school bond programs. I'm going to ask each one of the participants, including Tom, if they've got something they'd like to present. This is an opportunity to say all the good things, if that's what you want to do, about Sweetwater at that meeting and how bond oversight runs and what's been done. And then finally, Terry McCurney and I met with Chris Kate of the San Diego, CEO interim of the San Diego Taxpayers Association on Monday to kind of pick his brain and vice versa on bond oversight and what role the Taxpayers Association might play. So that's it for the chair report.
Mr. Kate, can I have an eye-ectomy? Get rid of the interim?
No, he is not a